If with all your hearts ye truly seek me, ye shall ever surely find me. Thus saith our God. If with all your hearts ye truly seek me, ye shall ever surely find me. Thus saith our God. Thus saith our God. Oh, that I knew where I might find him, that I might even come before his presence. Oh, that I knew where I might find him, that I might even come before his presence. Come before his presence. Oh, that I knew where I might find him. If with all your hearts ye truly seek me, ye shall ever surely find me. Thus saith our God. Ye shall ever surely find me. Thus saith our God.
Good morning. As we move into our time of prayer, we have a joy that's in your bulletin of everyone who has committed so far to the continued life of this church. And there's still plenty of opportunity to join in the commitment campaign for this coming year. I want to take this moment to tell you all that I'm extremely grateful for each of you. You have walked with me these past few years in ways that have been very profound. And I just want to express my gratitude to this congregation for all that you have done for me. As we move into prayer time, we do have a few concerns that we need to keep in the front of our minds and our thoughts as we move into this time of meditation. Be especially mindful of Doug and Kim Crawford as they're going through a difficult season in their lives. And Lee Erin Leary will be having a surgical procedure on her shoulder, I believe, on Tuesday. So please keep Lee in your thoughts as well. Our prayer this morning comes from our National Association. It is the Thanksgiving Proclamation. I think it makes a beautiful prayer. Please join me in prayer. We thank God for grace and love, for a fruitful land, for a faithful people, for a place to live, our faith, freedom, and fellowship. We give thanks for those who have cleared a way before us, for those who inspire us, for those who serve us, for those who sacrifice for us. We are aware that we are not all we can be. We do not do all the good we could. We too often submit to fear. We do not use the courageous examples before us. So we give thanks. We continue to be called to be a pilgrim people, to go places we have not been before, to sing the songs that we've not sung before, to meet peoples we've not met before, to think things we've not thought before. In the year of our God, 2018, we are a pilgrim people yet today. God still speaks to us today. God is still with us. Thanks be to God. Please join me in the prayer taught to us by Jesus. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us the wrongs we have done, as we forgive those who have wronged us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. We are trying to tighten up our announcement time, which comes usually right now. So the burden now comes on you to make sure that you read the bulletins and pay attention to any announcements that pertain to you. I do have to do a few brief ones. Fellowship pads are on the inside of the downstairs pew and on the outside of the upstairs pews. We ask that you write your information, pass it down the pew, and if the last person would return it to where it started from, we use this information in a number of ways. Visitors, there are visitor cards in some of the pew racks in front of you. Please fill one out. You can either leave it in your seat or put it in the offertory plate. We simply want to acknowledge your time with us here today. I do need to point out that we average about 15 visitors every Sunday. Of those, 5 or 6 are brand new. If you're one of those 5 or 6, we are delighted that you are here, and we hope that you will follow us into Fellowship Hall as we celebrate a thank you for our commitment campaign this year. The UCC, cell phones. Cell phones, and I'm not even preaching, cell phones. The Christmas party will be December 8th with fellowship at 5, and Donna Tucker for very special entertainment promises to be quite a treat as we kick off our Christmas season. The blanket collection for Interfaith Ministries Operation Holiday, we collected over 90 blankets last year. Let's make it 100 if we can. There's information in your bulletin and in Fellowship Hall. There's also been some additions to the Angel Tree in Fellowship Hall, some recent refugees from Africa. I think if you read about that, you'll be inspired to help those families. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome a guest from our National Association this morning, Reverend Dr. Michael Chittum.
The good news is I'm not preaching today. The bad news is I have a southern accent, so I tend to talk longer and say less. So y'all hold on. On behalf of the National Association of Congregational Christian Churches, which you know includes University Congregational Church, I am delighted to bring greetings. We are an association of churches that spreads across the country. We're in 36 different states, a little over 325 churches sprinkled around. But I am delighted to be here to represent all of your sister churches and to give greetings to you and thanksgiving in my heart for being able to be here this day. As you pray, and I notice the prayer concerns there, please be aware that one of our NA churches used to be located in Paradise, California. And both the church building, the church meeting house, and the minister's home that was in a neighboring community are nothing but ashes. So pray for the Craig Memorial Congregational Church in Paradise, California, and those good people who are struggling to put their lives back together. So I thank you. I'll be around a bit in Fellowship Hall. If you have any questions, comments, or criticisms of the NA, I'm used to hearing them. You can tell them to me directly. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Chittum. We had a leadership retreat yesterday, and Dr. Chittum led us in a process to envision a new way of doing our work as a congregation. You'll hear more about that later. And Barb Money is here to give us an update on our commitment campaign.
Good morning, everyone. My voice is better today, so you'll not have to listen to the scratches quite so much. I'm here today on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the commitment team to offer our deepest appreciation for all of those of you who have stepped up to make your commitment for 2019. I'd like to take a moment first, however, to recognize the members of the commitment team who are here this morning for the work that they've done to help bring us to today. So if you are a member of the team and you're present in the sanctuary this morning, would you stand? I know there's some of you are here. Please stand. Thank you. They have helped us to pull this off, and we appreciate their work. I also want to recognize the members of the Board of Trustees because they do the heavy lifting. They had the responsibility for preparing the proposed budget, and they will now go to work in December to make the adjustments required to that proposed budget based on the total commitments that we receive and bring you a final budget in January. It's hard work. And so I would like to recognize the members of the Board of Trustees. If you're in the sanctuary this morning, with those of you who are on the Board of Trustees, please stand. I know you're here. I've already seen you. Thank you. They do hard work. The members of the Board of Trustees knew when we started this process that we were setting forth a sizable goal. We recognized that to begin with, but many of you embraced that goal and you rose to that challenge, and for that we are very, very grateful. Today, our goal has not been met, but we are completing the drive. Those of you who have not yet submitted a card, I just want to encourage you to do so as soon as possible, because we must present a budget to you, the congregation, in January. So our work must be done, must be completed in the month of December, really before the holidays. So we need to know what amount of money we will be working with. So if you haven't completed a card, I urge you to do so as soon as you possibly can. But what we're here today to do is to celebrate the fact that we have completed the campaign, and there is good news. We have 110 commitments, household commitments. That's really wonderful. And of those, 42 are increased commitments. And remember, we ask you to up your commitment if there was any way that you possibly could. So again, I'm extremely grateful to those of you who responded in that positive way. And here's a piece of news that I'm particularly excited about, and that is we have 11 new commitments. These are people who have joined the church in 2018 and have already stepped up to become participants in our financial success. So I think that's remarkable, and I'm so pleased about that. So today is a day to recognize and appreciate each and every one of you who has made a commitment. Whether you made it because you love the music, because you enjoy volunteering at Gammon, because you like coming to Cook's Night Out, because you like making baby blankets and preparing the bags for the new mothers, because you loved learning about your number on the Enneagram and you enjoy Robin's sermons, whatever it is that you love and you give thanks for at UCC, we give thanks for you making that commitment. And I want to say personally, thank you, thank you, thank you. And the team wants to invite you to join us. We are providing some special refreshments following church in Fellowship Hall as our thank you to you for stepping up and for supporting the drive in the way that you have. Today is indeed a day for which we can be grateful in a season of Thanksgiving. Thank you, each of you.
Thank you, Barb. We missed the happy dance.
I know, but
Last year, Barb did a happy dance.
in December, and I'll come back.
She didn't mention specifically, but we do have fruit and cheese and mimosas in Fellowship Hall. So you'll want to come and celebrate with the trustees in the commitment campaign. As you're able, please stand and let's sing together, We Gather Together.
I know that it's easy to confuse us, but I'm not Frank. I have a feeling next week you'll think it's going to be him coming up. But, this is the time when we invite you to participate in the mission of our church by making an offering. Would the ushers please come forward? Whether we are offering our time, our talents, or our dollars, stewardship is all about what's in our hearts. Gracious and loving God, giver of all that is good and true and beautiful and life-giving, our gifts represent our sweat, they represent our lives, they represent our dreams. The gifts which we make are but tokens of the awesome gifts that have been given to us, and they are given thanksgiving for all that we have received, for all we have been inspired to be, for all we are challenged to become in this place. Amen.
Just a quick announcement, coming up the weekend after Thanksgiving weekend, so starting November 30th, is the 56th annual Candlelight Concerts at Wichita State, featuring the WSU Choirs, brass, percussion, organ. And this year is a special celebration because it is the 200th anniversary of the beloved Christmas carol, Silent Night. And so we're incorporating music about night kind of throughout the program, and of course that hymn will be featured as part of an audience sing-along towards the end of the event. The concerts are Friday night, November 30th, Sunday, December 2nd in the afternoon, and then Monday, December 3rd. It's a little bit odd. Usually we do a Saturday night, but they scheduled a men's basketball game at the same time, and they for some reason wouldn't move it on our behalf, so we tried. Anyway, so Friday, Sunday, Monday, we know our pecking order there. We're happy to keep on keeping on. The anthem for this morning was written by arranged by one of our own. It's the wonderful hymn tune, "It Is Well With My Soul," and it was arranged by our own Aaron Fink in the back row there.
you, like I felt like just saying, beautiful. Thank you so much, Aaron and Michael and Helen in the choir. We have the privilege this morning of welcoming a new class of new members, and you'll see the insert in your bulletin that tells you a bit about each one of them. I'd like for them to stand where they are and be welcomed. So Art and Sherry Clausen are here, and Jim and Jane Kuhlman. And Errol and Susie Luganbill couldn't be here but decided to join today anyway. I think they didn't want to wear the red flowers. And Ellen Ah is here, and Jim and Nat Barkley, and then Kathy Reichenberger. We welcome all of you to our service and to membership in our church. Thank you. I hope and pray and believe that each of you will find among us a place to grow spiritually, a community of faith to encourage you, enriching music and worship and great fellowship. And it's so wonderful to welcome you officially. Some of you feel like you've been a part of the church, and you are. And some of you are newer, and we will enjoy getting to know more about you as we go along. So welcome. At a recent murder trial in Wichita, 2 UCC members sat across the courtroom from one another. One UCC member was sitting with the parents of the murder victim because she was a close personal friend and had a long relationship with them. She went to the trial to offer her support, her consolation, and validation to the parents of the woman who had been murdered. On the other side of the courtroom was another member of UCC. She was sitting with the parents of the man on trial for murder. She went to the trial to offer support, consolation, and validation to his parents because she had a close and long relationship with them. Both the UCC members were there because of their love and concern for people who were going through a horrific tragedy. It was clear that both families lost their children, one to prison and one to murder. There were absolutely no winners in that courtroom. It was happenstance that 2 UCC members knew the respective families who were involved in the trial, but I am proud to say that people from UCC stood in solidarity with their friends at such a painful time. It's difficult to imagine a more poignant moment. Last week, Paul spoke about God's justice in regard to human suffering. And one of the answers he often offered to human suffering is sacred vulnerability. That's what Christians are called to do and to be, a part of God's justice in the world. We can answer by being vulnerable to one another. Today I want to talk specifically about being a part of God's justice in the world by using validation. Now, the definition of to validate means to make valid or to substantiate or to confirm. We all want to feel value and worth. We are designed to want validation, to feel like our lives have significance. And the Bible is full of validation for humanity. For example, just in the very beginning of the Bible, Genesis 1 tells us that we are made in God's image. Jeremiah reminds us that God's plans for us are personal and good. Romans tells us that God is on our side and that God gifted us with unique talents and gifts and strengths. The Gospel of John tells us that even when we are unlovable, God loves us. The Psalms are full of validation, including that we are the apple of God's eye. Now, during this series, I have sometimes asked you to look at each other and see the saint or the sinner, and today I want you to look around and validate one another. You are the apple of God's eye. You don't have to say it, but just look at each other and acknowledge. Yes, each one of you is the apple of God's eye. So our traditional worship word for today is from Psalm 37, verses 5 and 6. It's printed in your bulletin if you want to follow along. Open up before God. Keep nothing back. God will do whatever needs to be done. God will validate your life in the clear light of day and stamp you with approval at high noon. That's from the Message version, and I usually use the NRSV, but I thought this was a beautiful way to say this text. Instead of gaining personal worth from what we accomplish, Christians are told over and over again that we are loved simply because we are children of God. We do not have to perform or earn or accomplish anything. Our lives have meaning because we are loved by God. This is the ultimate validation. Do you believe it? When we look at one another, thank you, Paul. When we look at one another, sometimes it's easier to say, oh, yes, you have worth because you are loved by God. But then we get home and we look in the mirror and it may be harder for us to know we have value simply because we are loved by God. If you think about the healing stories of Jesus, you may remember that most every healing story starts out with Jesus validating the person. When people come carrying a paralyzed man to Jesus for healing, the first words that Jesus said were not, "You were healed, stand up, take your mat, and follow me." No. The first words were, "Take heart." These are words of validation and assurance. Jesus healed the man's heart before he healed his body. When the woman with the issue of blood came to Jesus, his words were the same. Take heart. Now imagine, if you will, how depressing and isolating and hopeless her condition had been in that time and that place. In the Gospel of Luke, we learn she had spent all of her livelihood on doctors and no one had healed her. In the Gospel of Mark, we're told that she had suffered many things from physicians, and she was not better, but worse. So Jesus said to her, "Be healed?" No, the first thing he said was, "Take heart." I can imagine he said it with such tenderness and compassion. He validated her for many years of suffering. I believe these stories tell us something essential about God's justice in regard to age, infirmity, depression, and human frailty. A significant piece of healing is found in validating a person. One psychologist calls it companioning. It is what two people in our church did a couple of weeks ago when they went to be with families as they went through a trial. They validated those families. Validation of a person's self has healing power all on its own. Listening to a person, giving them our time and our ears, listening without judgment, being present with them, companioning them. These are validating actions, and they have healing power all on their own. We do a great disservice to people when we focus exclusively on physical healing, because compassion includes validating that person's self. I've been fascinated with a gerontology specialist. Her name is Naomi Feil. I've been fascinated by her for many years. She grew up in the Montefiore home for the aged because her parents both worked there. And after going away for her own training, she developed what is called validation theory and has worked with elderly people for decades. If you Google her after church, you may find a powerful video of her working with a very old woman who had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease 9 years previously. Now, this lady was nonverbal. The patient, Gladys, was an African-American African-American Christian. And Naomi File is a Caucasian Jewish woman. So in this video, Naomi File strokes Gladys's face like a mother would. And she begins to sing well-known Christian songs to her. Jesus loves me, and he's got the whole world in his hands. And as she sings, she rubs Gladys's temples, and Gladys begins hitting her hand on the arm of her wheelchair in time. Jesus loves me, this I know. And then Gladys begins picking up speed, and Naomi File starts singing, Jesus loves me, this I know, the whole time rubbing her temples. This woman with no teeth, demented, nonverbal, then begins to sing. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world. And then Gladys says, in his hands. And Naomi File keeps singing. And Gladys sings, in his hands, in his hands. It is the most beautiful moment of validation and divine healing. Naomi File teaches us that validation is the key to reaching people who have withdrawn from the physical world, especially those who seem demented. She prefers the term disoriented, and she says they have intuitive wisdom to survive by restoring their past. She says they replace the damaged logical thinking with feeling, and they return to past pleasures to survive the bleak present. They focus on resolving the reason that they have lived. So when an older person has diminished eyesight and is calling out, "Mommy," to a brick wall, Naomi File suggests validating that person instead of arguing about the physical reality of a mommy who is long deceased and not standing by the brick wall. She says, ask about that person's mom. Say, "Oh, there is your mom. What do you want to say to her?" And she argues that people relive the past to restore their integrity and to resolve past hurts. When an older person sucks or hums or taps or rocks or touches or folds repeatedly, it's often a memory that they're repeating in their mind's eye. So Naomi File finds reasons for older people's actions and emotions and then tries to validate that person so that they can process and affirm their pasts before they die. Now, while Naomi File's work is with the elderly, just imagine what a difference it would make for all of us if we applied validation theory to all people of all ages that we interact with in a day or a week or longer. This is not throwing out constant compliments to people in a happy-go-lucky way. This is true validation by all of us. Words that affirm people's souls, that reinvigorate their belief that they are God's very own child. What if we looked into each person's eyes that we met today and we said something kind? What if we took time to listen to our coworkers and complimented them on something they did well? You might have to dig deep for some, but it's still worth it. Truly, find something to honor them. What if you went home today and you wrote a love note to a spouse, a child, a grandchild, a sibling, and you affirmed that person for being the person they are, not perfect, but God's own child? What if you built up your friends and spoke words of love to them and appreciated them and actually said it out loud? What if we came to church and we spoke to one another with the assurance and the gratitude for what each person brings to this community, and we thanked them? What a difference it would make and give all people the sense that they are a child of God. I know a man who takes time to write a personal note to 4 people each day. Now, this is a man who is busy, who has enough to do, more than enough, every day. Yet he takes time and he finds a reason to affirm 4 people every day. Now, over the years that he's been doing this, can you imagine the impact that it makes? Assuming he only does this Monday to Friday, that's 20 people a week. With 52 weeks in a year, that's more than 1,000 people each year who see his words of affirmation. What a gift. When we're considering topics for this sermon series on God's justice, we listed the problems of ageism, physical and mental health, and we named it mind, body, spirit, voice. And I began to wonder, how can we as people of faith address these problems in our society? How can we be a part of God's justice, God's vision in the world? How can we help people who are elderly, people who struggle with physical and mental health issues? Well, we can go to court, sit with them on both sides of the courtroom. We can look people in the eye and affirm their worth, not for what they did, but for who they are. We can thank people for their work and their words. We can speak lovingly and kindly. We can listen for the meaning behind the words, and then we can listen some more. And we can take a lesson from Jesus when he met hurting people by saying first thing out of our mouths, take heart. Take heart. What can we do to be a part of God's justice in the world? Validate every single person. Amen. As you're able, please stand and we'll sing our choral benediction. So you saw some of our deacons leaving to get the mimosas first. No, they went to help prepare things for you all. So I hope you will join us in Fellowship Hall. Whether you're visiting or you're a longtime person here, we want to celebrate that commitment campaign that will help us into the future as a church. And I hope the first thing you do when you leave here is look someone in the eye and validate them. Whether you say you're God's own beloved child or whether you say something more personal, give people validation this week because you will change the world. Amen.
Amen.